What is going on, Dork Daily? It is your resident Delco Dork, Gabe back with another video. And time is a cruel bastard, isn't it, folks? I was just thinking about something that's about to pop up and have its 10-year anniversary. That being the black sheep of the Avengers films, Avengers Age of Ultron. And I was thinking about it, and why is it like that? And I think I wanted to talk about that in a video. And this is what we're going to go over today. How well has Age of Ultron aged? From a scale to fine wine to sour milk. Let's get into that, shall we? So I wasn't sure how to structure this video because a plot synopsis doesn't really make sense, because if you've clicked this video, you've probably already seen the movie. So I think I want to go through where I believe Age of Ultron fits, or if it doesn't, in the Infinity Saga, based from when it was conceived to when it was released and the aftermath. So I remember when this was announced, and we're getting a second Avengers film, and it's Joss Whedon again, which, for better or worse, he came back. And, well, we're not going to go down the Joss Whedon rabbit hole, but I was like, okay, makes natural sense. He did the first Avengers movie. It was great. And we've got several other building blocks to lead up to this movie. We already knew we weren't going to get Thanos. They announced Ultron, and I'm almost positive that Joss Whedon was the one who wanted to cover this. So we're getting a bridging movie whilst we're still building up to Thanos' ultimate arrival. And I thought to myself, all right, well, I want to see the scale of this and its ramifications for when movies follow leading up to the Infinity Stones and Thanos' ultimate acquisition of them. And I think that a part of the reason that this movie has some issues is because we knew we were getting a fillers Avengers movie. And it kind of sucks to say it that way, but I could say, you know, if we had to rewind time, let's go back to 2015 when this was going to get released. We had just come off of what I consider to be, and I hope most people would too, to this day, the best year of the MCU, 2014. We got Captain America Captain America the Winter Soldier and Guardians of the Galaxy, two movies that I put in my top 5 of the MCU. MCU is white hot, even with dud entries. They are gonna do bank on this movie because apparently, I believe it was at the time and still is one of the most expensive movies ever made. You know, you got to get all the bells and whistles in there. And when they initially announced Ultron, I'm like, all right, he's got a good enough story, and they announced that they weren't gonna base it off the comic story. So I was curious to see what we got. And because I said that Marvel was white hot at the time, everybody was into them, you know, licensed to print money. I actually saw this movie twice in theaters because I was just that hyped. And I believe I've done it with every single Avengers movie. So I don't think I need to tell a lot of you, but since we brought up the topic, where the movie went and its aftermath. So I'm not going to go step-by-step basis off the plot, but things that I think just did this movie a disservice. Joss Whedon, who is very much intrinsically tied to his creativity, and I know they were butting heads with Marvel about things they didn't want in the movie and things they wanted. They had to compromise, and I think that's ultimately where he left. We ended up getting a silver lining because the Russos came back to do the other Avengers movies, so thumbs up with that. Ultron from the get-go, because even though we knew that we were going to keep getting these building movies leading up to the Infinity Stones, it just felt like a character who could be really awesome, hopefully won't be dispatched in one movie, which at the time, let's be real, was the biggest complaint of the MCU. It's like, well, the Avengers kick ass, but like you just keep giving us villains and they're done, one and dones. And with a threat that is an artificial intelligence a villain? It's funny looking back at this movie now 10 years later with AI, but I digress. I don't think the story is strong, and I even know, rewatching this for the first time in years, full discretion, I popped in the Blu-ray for the first time since I did a binge of all the movies leading up to Endgame. And you just know from the moment the movie starts, it's kind of groan-inducing. I think this is the movie where they started with a lot of the cringe humor, and it's just relentless, and some of them are really stupid.
Shit! Language!
I hate that hiding the zucchini line, and, it's just awful. And I just knew that this movie was going to be a struggle to get through. And it shouldn't be that way with a second Avengers movie. So I understand where they're like, let's build up. But if that's the case, let's make things more serious and treat this as a more serious situation. Ultron is not that interesting. He's just not. His plans keep changing like it's an audible. At first, he hates the Avengers. He wants them extinct. He wants to create this ultimate body. He's working with the twins, even though he hates humans. And it doesn't make sense to me. And then his ultimate plan is, let's use vibranium as a core to take a giant section of Sokovia and make it a giant meteor. It sounds like the stakes should be big, but you have a feeling that nothing of big circumstance is going to come of this. The Avengers are still going to be together. People would always speculate that we might lose somebody. We did, because we get introduced to the twins. Obviously, we can't call them their Fox counterparts at the time. So we got Wanda Maximoff, Elizabeth Olsen, and Aaron Taylor Johnson, who I still to this day refer to as Quick-Ass. And other than Quick-Ass, nobody of circumstance gets killed. And when you really break down the plot of things that happen later on, what do we have? They're trying to tease that the Avengers can't get along. We kind of did that in the first Avengers movie. And then they ultimately came together to stop the threat. Whereas that was intergalactic. This is just Ultron, and especially after he loses his internet connection, it's just a bunch of his clone bots. And why do they look better than him? He's so over-designed. I'm sorry, James Spader. They just didn't write you well. You're too expressive and too humanoid for something that hates humans. And then when all is said and done, we thought that Steve was going to take off with a new team. And that ultimately gets undone because the plot that they wanted to go was the Avengers potentially could split up, which they ultimately did in a much better movie that doesn't even have Avengers in its title. But let's get to the real elephant in the room. I don't think anybody likes this. Even if you do your fan fictions or you love your couples that don't really exist in the comics and you want to see them together, did anybody want to see Bruce and Natasha get together? It was so stupid, out of nowhere. No one bought it. No one wanted to see it. And it takes up a good chunk of the movie. And it really just boils down to, well, they're superheroes and they both have issues. I'm like, what? Everybody was saying that. Why did they even think that was a good idea? If that was Joss Whedon's idea, it shouldn't have made it into the script. I don't know what happened there. That was like forcing a couple on us that nobody wanted. Did you? Please tell me if you did. I would love to know if there was anybody out there that actually wanted to see Bruce and Natasha be romantically involved. I think it's one of the dumbest things. The fight scenes aren't that great. By 2015 standards, they were okay. But I'm not invested because Ultron's not that interesting of a character. The best fight is with the Hulk and the Hulkbuster. And everything keeps getting undercut. I swear this is the movie that started this stupid humor. Where everything had some dumb jokes. And sometimes it was like, chuckle-worthy. It's just beating you over the head. And by the time 2.5 hours are done, you're just like, wow, that was really underwhelming for an Avengers movie. So why is it we have a $250 million movie based around a character who really doesn't pose that much of a long-term threat to the Avengers be pretty much useless? He's just a throwaway villain, and they did a better job with him in the season 1 of What If. What? Okay, fine. And when you look at it in terms of where it goes, the Infinity Saga, really all we get is introductions to Wanda, Vision, we get a new stone, and maybe the best thing in the movie, that slight nudge of Mjolnir by Cap. What a great payoff that was. But that's just what I think. On the aging scale, this is sour milk, folks. But what did you think of Age of Ultron, especially now? Are you planning to watch it again and give it another chance after 10 years? Did you like it back then? Let me know down in the comments. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. From Dork Daily, this is Gabe, and I'll see you guys next time.
I can't physically throw up in my mouth, but